we welcome Dr. Martha Salazar-Zamora, Mark Robinson, and Dr. Rick Fernandez to the show. How's everyone doing?
Great.
Surviving.
Fantastic.
Making it. Let's get in with our icebreaker question, starting with Dr. Salazar-Zamora. What is your favorite superpower?
Okay, so I don't know during normal times if this would be my answer, but during COVID, it would definitely have to be manipulating time, because I would love to have the opportunity to manipulate time so that we could get successfully past this pandemic and be in a very different place overall. Certainly, I'm talking about education, but this is far-reaching, far greater than just the realm of education. Of course, it's overall. So I would say if I had a superpower and I could manipulate time, I could push us forward to the point where we could go back to what we consider to be normalcy, like pre-COVID.
Yeah. Hopeful news today on potential vaccines.
I heard that.
Moderna, Dr. Fauci seems to be hopeful. So we'll see. Mark, what about you?
Precognition. I would really, really like to know in more detail what's coming next so I can plan for it and be more effective in dealing with it.
Love that answer. Dr. Rick?
Mine's similar to a little bit of time travel. I would like to be able to pick some figures in history and not interact, but just listen to their decision-making process, right? So anywhere on the time continuum to see how some of the greatest minds, the greatest athletes, the greatest leaders, and just how they go through their trials, their tribulations, how they make decisions, how they communicate it, and some of the hard decisions they've had to make along the way. I'm always interested in see how people think about the problem. I think that gives the insight of how they work, and it gives me a new perspective that I may not have. So that's kind of the one that right now seems like that would be very, very valuable.
Love that. Yeah. And in business school, that's like oftentimes we heard in like case interviews, people want to hear the way you think. And understanding that, I think, is a huge part of life and a huge part of business. Speaking of all of that, we are in the process of announcing a major partnership between these two organizations. Let's start with a quick overview. Dr. Salazar-Zamora, I will direct this to you first. Describe this partnership to us. Let's get your perspective, and then I want to get Mark's perspective as well, and then we'll follow up with Rick as well.
All right. Well, thank you, Ben. And thank you for highlighting this partnership, because we're very excited about this. We believe it's the first in the state and perhaps even first in the nation where we've had this situation where an educational entity has to partner with corporations such as Axiom to be able to focus on the issue at hand. And so I want to give kudos and shout out to Dr. Fernandez, because through another partnership that we have as part of our Academy of Energy and International Business with BJ Services, we found out about Axiom. So thankful that Dr. Fernandez learned a little bit about their partnership, and then as an executive team talked to us about this opportunity. So during the month of approximately June, I guess, we began to have and receive reports of confirmed COVID cases from students and staff. And obviously, this being new to all of us, but particularly in the educational realm, the thought was, okay, now this is one more thing to manage. And of course, Destination Excellence District in Tomball, we want to do it really well, but not really sure, not having a lot of background on how to do that. And so quickly it became apparent there were going to be a great deal of questions. What would this look like? The time associated with a singular positive test. When you think about just the contact tracing and what that looks like through communication and how you handle that, we began brainstorming and talking about how we would handle it internally. What would that look like? Who would do this? And we really couldn't land on the best either team, group of individuals, person, or even trying to outsource. And fortunately, we found out about Axiom, which I have to tell you, I was not familiar with before, but I become a huge fan and totally excited about this partnership because it gave us, options on case management. about how we would work through the best school-based solution when somebody does test positive, one of our staff members, and that can be a staff member in any area. I'm excited about that in the sense, certainly not about the situation, but knowing that we have experts in the field that are fully HIPAA compliant, that can help us navigate from the first onset to when they have to leave the workplace and when they can return. So there's a lot more that I know Mark will explain because that's his realm of expertise. But as an educator, it gives me peace to know that we're partnering with such an expert.
That does sound extremely comforting. Mark, let's skip ahead briefly. And before you talk about the partnership from your side, why don't you tell us briefly about Axiom, about your business?
Sure. Well, obviously, we're one of the better kept secrets in the world because Dr. Salazar did not know about us in advance, which is really disappointing.
I'm so sorry, but now I'm a huge fan.
There would have been no reason for you to know. Axiom's an occupational health business. We provide services to our clients on behalf of their workers, their workforce. So our legacy services are supporting people who have injury accidents in the workplace through the whole process of evaluating, triage, treatment, and ultimately return to work. And alongside that, running testing programs of various kinds, pre-employment, intra-employment, pre-exit, that enable people to continue to work healthily and detect early any issues that are arising, respiratory health, auditory health, etc. So those two services, 20 years old legacy of serving industry in difficult situations, were a great platform for us to develop a solution that was very COVID focused. First off, we came up with a call center solution, which enabled our clients, initially our existing clients, and then subsequently a very large number of other commercial clients, to use our call center to manage exposures and actual symptomatic cases of COVID. We have a very highly credentialed physician as our chief medical officer. He oversees all of the protocols that we operate. We have a great team of nurses and nursing assistants in our call center, and that service, first of its kind in the nation, was very well received. We started to get requests for pre-screening. How can we avoid having everybody have to call in and just have those people who have real need? So in double quick time, we managed to develop an app that we put up on Google and on the Android platform. And that app enables a shallow pre-screen of people before they head into their workplace, or in the case of Tomball ISD, before they head into school. It's 5 or 6 questions. It's the first sieve of a mesh of questions. If any of those flag the individual as being at risk of being contagious, then they drop down to a call center experience where we ask them deeper and more probing questions before either allowing them to go to work or putting a hold on their work status. And that app was tremendously successful as well. And actually, our client, BJ Services, was one of the pioneers of both of those services with us, and uses both of those services. They're now, I think, 3 months into using those services. The whole thing took off. It went crazy. We've added other services since then around managing COVID testing. We're doing on-site support services for the TV and film industry for productions. Entertainment's so important in a time when everybody's trapped at home, and we're fortunate enough to have the opportunity to help those productions actually go ahead and have actors and trades all working on set together with the comfort that they have the lowest probability that can be managed of catching COVID in the workplace. It's impossible to eliminate it completely, because there are windows of infection which still persist even if you screen people, even if you've tested people. But this gives you the highest probability that you're safe at work.
Yes. Dr. Z mentioned earlier that you were connected through an existing partnership, and now you, Mark, have just alluded to BJ Services. How exactly did this, how did this come to you?
So we've been a long-term provider of occupational health services to BJ Services. BJ Services is one of the most innovative companies in the oil and gas space, upstream oil and gas. They're a technology and a services business, and their executive team is extremely forward-thinking and progressive. What we have found is that they are a demanding client in that they have a clear vision of what they want to be able to do to manage workplace health, and they've been a catalyst for us to test solutions. They've been great partners on does this work, does that work, providing input, allowing us to beta test approaches. And they've dragged us along that path, perhaps faster than we could have gone if we'd been innovating of our own volition.
I hear BJ Services, and obviously we've talked about the Academy of Energy and International Business previously. All of this, I'm hearing Malcolm O'Neill's name echoing around this conversation. Can you tell us how the conversation began?
Well, actually, I went to visit just to check in, and obviously was concerned with their employees. I know that the oil industry had taken a big hit, and we wanted just to touch base because we've got our great partnership in our academy opening up in the fall. And so Malcolm just mentioned, and I said, what can we expect for our students? Do we need to be prepared for a different level of screening here versus our campuses? Just to kind of get on the same page, just in case there were some differences there. And so he brought up Axiom, and then he started talking. And of course, we all seem to work very similarly. So as he started bringing it up, I said, well, can you provide an introduction? And so before I knew it, we were on a teleconference much like this, and Mark's team, Dara being the lead there, I just started rapid firing questions to her, like, can you do this? Have you done this? Have you thought about this? What would it look like for here? Do you have any educational experience? And so it was never a no. It was always, we have not done that, but we can do that. And here's how we could do it. So with that, we started meeting pretty regularly to think about how it may look at the school level and how it could help our employees. And when I started digging into it and looking what it could potentially relieve our schools and the time that they would have to spend chasing down the rabbit hole, so to speak, I thought, man, this is going to be great. Just a great relief and assistance, and just provide a service that no other school district really can say that they have that opportunity to give their employees. So I was super excited about it, and I wanted to share it with Dr. Z, and Ben, you're familiar with our superintendent, so when she likes something, and it's like, hey, be ready to, let's go, let's get it ready to go, and how do we get this to the employees and make it a good fit for us? And so it's been a little bit of a whirlwind, but I think a good whirlwind for us for the fall.
To add to that, yes. Ben, I want to add a little bit to that because kudos to Axiom, because they quickly. This was, again, something we weren't familiar with. And although everything that Dr. Fernandez has said we were excited about, they came out and visited with our Return to Excellence Task Force, which is a group of administrators and staff that were planning our reentry for the fall. They came out physically and spoke. And then we had a follow-up with Mark and other staff members that also spoke to the greater task force in a virtual format as well. So there's been some hand-holding, a lot of questions answered because, again, our lack of familiarity, but excitement because we know other partnerships that have been forged and that have been so successful, and then just excited about, again, the fact that in public education, we don't have the expertise in this area. And I believe that's what it's going to take, people that know exactly what they're doing so that we get it right. And we manage 6 staff members in the most appropriate way.
Mark, you talked a little bit about your app and the stepwise process and so forth, but as briefly as possible, what's an executive summary for our listeners of what this is actually going to look like in practice?
Okay, well, we've got two problems to solve. The first is, how can we keep faculty and staff safe? And the second is, how can we keep the kids safe? And if I tackle the first one first, that's the easiest, because that's what we do already for all our clients. We help keep our clients' employees safe. Okay, so we put them through that primary screening service on the app and a secondary screening service in the call center, and then case management through whatever consequences arise from an exposure or an illness until they're safe to go back to the workplace. So that's an easy problem for us to solve. The much harder problem is, what do we do about the kids? Because, as I'm sure all of you know, everything gets more complicated when minors are involved. We have different relationships. Who actually can speak for the kid? Can we trust the kid to speak for themselves? Does the parent or guardian have to be the apparent authority behind decisions? Are we offering a case management service to the kids, or are we offering simply a screening service and a referral to their own primary care physician or other health services? Do the kids physically go to school to go through this process, or do they do it from home? How do we handle kids that don't have access to a mobile device or have internet access? There's just this whole host of problems. And to tackle those problems, we've been working very closely with Dr. Salazar's team to really understand them, because many of my team have kids. Many of them are actually in the Tomball school system. So they have a consumer understanding of all of this, but none of us are educators. None of us have worked in education extensively, and none of us really had a complete grasp on the problem. And kudos to Rick particularly. He's been great at explaining exactly what the problem set looks like, so we can build a use case, and then we can build a version of our app that front ends this, that is actually called Check Into School instead of Check Into Work, and features a different function set that addresses the problem specific to a school district.
And what was the decision that was made? Do you end up requiring the parents to basically answer the questions for their kids? Like, what was the scaling process for this? I mean, you're dealing with an enormous number of minors. What was the biggest issue you dealt with in all that?
So the answer is, Dr. Salazar will tell you.
Okay.
Okay, so currently we are forming our partnership with the staff initially, but we're continuing our ongoing conversation to see how we can be inclusive of students as well, because that's still another challenge that we have ahead of us.
Sure.
But starting in the fall, upon whatever date at this point our reentry is in August, or if it's pushed back for some reason, then of course we are still looking at the student solution, and it may very well be partnering with Axiom as well.
I see.
Right.
I see.
And in the interim, we're building a very flexible solution that accommodates a wide variety of parent, guardian, or independent minor check-in options. And we're also working now to make this solution available to other independent school districts, if there's appetite. I just want to say, Axiom's a mission-driven business. We exist to help people. We are for profit, but we're not one of those dirty capitalist organizations that only cares about how much money we make. We're very vested in our community, and we have a team of people who fundamentally deeply believe in the mission. And the mission is help people with health. And this, for us, is a natural extension of our mission.
What was the hardest thing from each side's perspective? What was the hardest thing about this, from the first pitch to getting the faculty and staff elements of this pushed across the finish line, so to speak? What's been the hardest part of it? the biggest problem you had to solve?
Gosh, I'm happy to start with that because truthfully, when you think of partnerships, oftentimes there are challenges and there are hurdles that you have to, to get past. There really have been none in this case. I mean, truthfully, upon recognizing the fact that we could partner with such a wonderful organization such as Axiom in the area of occupational health business, which is not something that educators are as familiar with, right? But having the necessity there, they have been collaborative, answering all the questions that we have. I've shared the information with our board of trustees. As I mentioned, our administrative team was informed I would imagine at least 3 or 4 times. And then the Return to Excellence Task Force team, again, also heard from members of Mark's organization at least twice. And so it's really pretty rare that you have this kind of fluid, ongoing, very not challenging collaboration. I really couldn't tell you there have been any obstacles at all. I think the biggest obstacle will be the fact that we're dealing with COVID-19, but not the partnership in any way. I've had a great sense of peace from the beginning. And if I have any questions, Dr. Fernandez will find the answers very quickly.
Absolutely.
Very good. Mark, in the implementation, has there what has been most vexing? Obviously, the partnership seems to be going pretty smoothly, but there are challenges in the implementation, and there will be challenges as you continue rolling it out. Obviously, if you do end up working with the students as well, there will be challenges there. You mentioned the difficulty of the additional layers of complexity once you're dealing with minors, but aside from that, is there anything that you feel like you're going to be spending the most time on?
So first of all, I'd like to echo Dr. Salazar's words. Tomball have been a wonderful partner to work with. Rick has been a really effective facilitator and a great visionary on behalf of the school district. Dr. Salazar's been a dream sponsor for a project like this. The hardest thing for us is bandwidth. What we do is in such enormous demand right now. And we're constantly on a daily basis faced with choices around where do we place investment in solutions to map to specific industries or specific sectors. We see the education sector as critical for the future of the country. And for us, it was a no-brainer to allocate some of our precious development resource and a whole bunch of our commercial bandwidth to talk to them. And as I said, it's been a great partnership. I've been really happy. So I think I answered both your questions in one there. That first of all, partnership, fantastic, no issues so far. Secondly, the toughest thing is finding the bandwidth from all of the different demands on my team to allocate enough to this to make it work.
That makes sense. Rick, I want to ask you briefly. You seem to be constantly pitching ideas to Dr. Z. You seem to be a tireless innovator, and I just wanted to ask what's your mind on next? I mean, we have the Academy of Energy and International Business. We have this seems like what maybe proved to be a very effective partnership with Axiom Medical. What's going through your mind now? Where do you go next?
So I like to call it, I have a car to sell you is usually what I send a text to our executive team, our cabinet.
That is true. Very true.
I did say that Axiom was a Maserati.
He did. He knows I like that.
That's right. I have to give her the type of car that it is before I have to think about that. So what I have found is that our local companies, BJ Services in particular, and now Axiom, are more than willing to engage with this on several levels, not only to help us within the academy or provide a much needed service, but I've also had some discussions about how do we get our students involved? How do we leverage what you do to give our students a new angle on what they can potentially do in their future? And so, because quite honestly, you asked what some of the most difficult components were, and really for me, I didn't understand exactly what services Axiom provides. And so I had to learn what do you do in this sector of health, and how does that help companies stay healthy and stay safe. And then once I understood that, I was like, that's a whole realm that I didn't know existed. I wonder if our students know that existed. And working with Dara and her team and learning about the technical aspect, where we're developing these apps that make it so much easier, and you have real-time data. It's like, well, that's something that our students are going to want to do or need to do. So how do we leverage the partnerships to a higher degree, so that maybe Axiom has some interns from Tomball ISD that help her developing these apps? That's a great testing market. Well, what would you respond to at 8 a.m. if you're a high school senior and you had an app to check into school? So some of those potentials, and I'm probably just throwing this at Mark, but Dara has heard of this, so she can't say that she hasn't.
She hasn't sold me that Maserati yet.
Yes, it's coming.
Still in the lot.
Yes, there you go. It's coming. It's being shipped right now. So some things like that, and we just want to continue being innovative of what we can give our kids. And to me, that's the most exciting part. Is it's more than just the once a year come in and have a guest speaker about what you do, but like letting our kids see that actual development. And the Mark mentioned like a beta test, like where could that go if a kid was a part of that process? And in a time where we need solutions, we need answers, we need to be agile and pivot with any information that we have, like they're living that experience in real time and maybe helping develop a solution in real time for other kids. So that would be an ultimate goal, is give our kids an option to leverage their future in a different way than we have before.
I love it. It's a realistic possibility that some sort of COVID vaccine will land this coming school year. Not a certainty, but certainly possible. Dr. Z, if that did happen, how could this partnership serve as an ongoing model for schools around the country? How can people working in secondary education, higher education, primary education think about preparedness for a potential future scenario? What do you think about the future for this following? Let's assume that there's some kind of COVID-19 vaccine relatively soon. How do you think about the future?
So I am so excited about hearing the news that they're getting closer. Like all of us, we know that we're waiting for this possibility for a safe vaccine to help us. But I feel like with this partnership, we would have perhaps immediate support for next steps as a district, and possibly even, we've talked about expedited testing access, which is another benefit. I think it would give us an opportunity to perhaps rebound faster as a district, of course, and then also maybe even be able to lead in the curve amongst other districts when you think about what the next steps would be. Having this partnership in the area of, I mentioned not being familiar with occupational health business as an educator, but having the experts that can help guide us to the next best steps as a vaccine may be released.
Makes sense.
Can I pick up on that a little?
Please do, yes.
Yes. So, first of all, I'd caution slightly about the optimism around availability of effective vaccines.
Yep.
Yes, there's progress, and three of the most likely candidates are progressing to larger scale human trials. But somewhere around 80% of all pharmaceutical products fail at that level 3 trial. And I'd also point out that there are no effective vaccines for any coronaviruses, so other viruses in that family as of this point. The common cold is often caused by a coronavirus. So I think the mass of human ingenuity is pursuing solutions, vaccination solutions. In a parallel track, there's an equally important body of research going on around therapies that will reduce the severity, duration, and mortality of the disease, because we're able to intervene more effectively and stop its progress before it kills people. And I think if I had to place any kind of bet on what's coming first, I'd say effective therapies will be with us long before vaccination rises to the level of prevalence that would confer herd immunity. Herd immunity requires over 70% of the population to be vaccinated, and that vaccination to be effective, right? And we have large constituencies of Americans who have emerged over the last few years as anti-vax. And I think we'd see resistance even to a well-trialed vaccine from a material segment of the population. So that's just one factor. Availability, the practicality of mass vaccination, the timeline it would take. It seems to me highly unlikely that in the next academic school year we have vaccination as a solution to this problem. I do believe it will be ultimately part of the solution, but I think screening and other preventive measures are probably more important than vaccination for the next 12 months. Mm. And then one point about the future. Most schools already exclude kids or seek to exclude kids who are feverish or obviously sick from going into the school. It's a somewhat cumbersome process. An app like Check Into School would enable that to be a fully automated process that was well managed and still have value without probably all the call center stuff behind it, but would still have value for the education sector in managing infectious disease exposures in the classroom long after COVID has become a memory, I think.
Is there anything that from any of the three of you, is there anything that we didn't talk about that we should have?
No, I don't think so. I mean, this is the first time we've engaged in a partnership with any not-for-profit organization. So it's a new experience for us. But if we can use this as a model, it certainly won't be the last time we do it. I think there are many aspects of the work that we do that could be extended far beyond our historical commercial client base. And we're committed to doing social good. And I think this is one of the reasons we did agree to do this project with Tomball, was because we see it as a social good.
I just want to add to that because I love hearing that. And we don't often hear that from partners. I heard that, of course, with our partnership with Malcolm. We've talked about Malcolm before. But I've heard Mark say that a few times, and I feel that, and I believe that to be true. When you're an educational district, we certainly strive to have innovative practices and one-of-a-kind experiences. But this, to me, means more in the sense that I believe what Mark is saying, that it is for the greater good. It is a partnership, obviously, but it's really to make a difference in the lives of everybody in our community. And I'm thankful for that.
I'm an American by choice, and I'm an American because I believe in the American dream and the American ideal. And for me, that's based in voluntarism. It's based in people coming together to do good things out of the goodness of their heart. We're the most charitable and giving nation on earth. Americans donate way more in charity than all of the rest of the world combined. And I think it's a phenomenal testament to our culture and our strength as a nation that when we're faced with a challenge like this, we can come together and solve problems.
Wise words. Let's close with some good bull for each of the three of you. And excluding everyone on this conversation, who would you like to send some good bull? Dr. Z, we'll start with you.
So I would like to send some good bull and recognize all of our fellow educators throughout the nation that are grappling with COVID-19, the pandemic, and how to successfully get our students re-entered back into public education safely.
Great. Mark?
The healthcare workers on the front lines who are risking life and health to save lives and to treat this illness. I have many, many friends in public health who are living a nightmare, and no more so anywhere than Texas right now, with the level of of rise in cases and the saturation of our healthcare system, particularly in the Houston area, where we're approaching not having any more critical care beds available for critically ill patients. Those people are the heroes of this whole thing. They are amazing role models. They volunteer. They put themselves at risk day after day. They're working all hours, and there's nobody who's a greater hero to me at the moment than our healthcare workers, and at every level, from the aide who cleans the floors to the specialist doctor who oversees an ICU, and particularly all the nurses, because the nurses have the worst of the job, and they do it cheerfully day in, day out.
Thank you for that. Rick?
I think our Tomball team, I think it starts with our leader. And, part of my selling the car is just meet my superintendent. Once you meet her, you will understand why we're the right district to partner with, because you can see it in her enthusiasm. I think we have the best team assembled. Dr. Jeff McKenna, who's over our human talent department, all of our cabinet members, and then our teachers and our administrators, our principals, who are helping us work through these solutions and helping us figure out the best way forward to provide for our families. You don't get a team like that, like we have very often, and I don't see it in a lot of other corporations. And it's hard to find that great mix. And I think that we have it, and I think we're very blessed to have that. And I'm very thankful for that. And I've just been lucky and fortunate to be a part of some of these partnerships. And I think that we're going to be able to continue to do that because of who we are and what we do, and because we have the best superintendent in the state of Texas.
I think all three of us are blessed to be working in jobs that are deeply rewarding and that make a difference in the world. And, I'm thankful every day that I get the opportunity to go to work and do what I do.
Love that. All right, all three of you, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing this partnership with us, and we look forward to seeing how it all unfolds. And obviously, we wish the district and Axiom the best of luck moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.